But yeah, what you're talking about is kind of this instilled ignorance that our young people have. They have been purposely made ignorant and left ignorant of our traditions and our values. It's painful to go back and read the early literature from our founders, when all they ever talk about is how are we going to get the government, which has to control the people, but how are we going to get the government to control itself? And that becomes sort of obsolete around the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, when guys like Woodrow Wilson started to say, you know what? Life is now too complicated for individuals to run their own governments. They have to be run by experts. They don't even really want to run it themselves. Yeah, so now that we've seen, after COVID, we've seen just how bad the experts are, maybe we should start thinking about taking our lives back into our own control. They really have taught us. They have taught the young people that they cannot do for themselves. And it goes against everything that America was founded on. It really is sad when you look back that what impressed people about America was that the lowest person here would express his opinion. Yeah. The lowest guy, didn't matter how much money he had, what he did for a living, whether he worked with his hands or his mind, was willing to express his opinion because he thought he was just as good as everybody else. Now they basically trained people to be afraid, even to answer a question like, what is a woman? Mm-hmm. And so the experts have taken control of the building, basically, by convincing us that we don't know what we're doing. And it's just not true.
Right. Well, the irony, too, is now the people that just want to be left alone are somehow the weirdos. But I want to get into this Boston mayor, Michelle Wu, who is a perfect example of what is wrong with this country.
I think we've had individual conversations with everyone so people understand that it was truly just an honest mistake that went out in typing the email field. And I look forward to celebrating with everyone at the holiday parties that we will have besides this one as well. So.
Andrew, she sent out an email to city council members inviting only non-whites to this party, and oops, sent it to everybody instead of just those people. Now she's trying to backtrack. Come on, lady.
It's wonderful that what she apologized for was sending the invitation out to everybody. She didn't apologize for holding a party along racial lines, which is, of course, an awful, awful sin. I mean, race, look. It didn't have to be race. In Europe, when the Marxists were trying to sell their goods, they used class because class was what divided people. Here we had a history of racial division. It was a real history. There were real wrongs committed in the name of racial hate and of tribalism. And so they've used that as a wedge between us. You pointed out in your monologue that racial relations were getting better and better and better until Barack Obama was elected president, which you would have thought would have been the end of the story. The first white majority country in history to elect a black leader. But instead, because that black leader happened to be a leftist, he used the wedge of race to draw us further and further apart, especially when his policies started to fail. They always say this about leftists. The issue is never the issue is always the revolution. And I think that that's true of race as well. Americans, if you look around, America is an amazingly friendly country between the races. It's a hard thing to do. Other countries were formed by a single race, which is much easier. What we have done is much harder. And they have worked hard. The left has worked very, very hard to tear that comedy apart.
Yeah, it is horrible. But Andrew, the other thing, too, is we live in a society now where they want to have all the students and all the people of America just repent for the few bad things we did, but never look at the bigger picture that, yes, we had some bad things in our history as a country, but they all amounted to the greatest country this world has ever known. They don't want you to know that.
No, well, the truth about the past is that you can't fix it. You can only go forward and do things differently in the future. So you can't go back and make people who were slaves and are now dead not slaves. You can't go back and make people who held slaves repent. They're gone. They have to face their God, just like the rest of us will have to do. Yeah. So they're basically giving us a never-ending task, and that's the point. The point is not to fix things, it's to make sure the task is never-ending, the guilt is never-ending, the shame is never-ending, instead of saying, you know what, tomorrow, it's not going to be like this anymore because we see that it was wrong. That's the way countries progress. It's the only way they progress. You can only change the future. You can't change the past. And so the point of it is that it can't be done.